must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. This is Diaspora Dispatches, where we get to look at the news making headlines across the continent. Early in the morning, we were looking at the news making headlines here in Kenya and looked at some topical issues that affected Kenyans around the BBI issue right now. A very important national conversation that Kenya is having. So right now, let's bring us up to date with what happened and what has been happening throughout the weekend, in the continent of Africa, and some of the stories that are developing even as we speak. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and thank you for choosing to be with us this afternoon. Just a few minutes past 3 p.m. here in Nairobi. I don't know what is the time where you're watching us from, but good morning, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in. So let's start with Uganda. And Uganda's Electoral Commission has cleared incumbent President Yoweri Museveni to begin official campaigns for the elections scheduled for January 2021. Mr. Museveni has ruled the country since 1986 when he rose to power through an armed struggle. A law passed in 2017 removed a constitutional age limit for presidential candidates, making it possible for Mr. Museveni, who is 76 years old, to run again. One of President's challengers, the musician turned opposition politician Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, is scheduled to be nominated by the Electoral Commission on Tuesday. So far, 10 aspirants are vying for the top job. Others include former Army Commander General Mugisha Muntu and former Security Minister General Henry Tumukunde. And then still staying with Uganda, and the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, has terminated its COVID-19 cash transfer program in Uganda. The U.S. Embassy there said the decision followed the Ugandan government indefinite suspension of Give Directly, a non-profit organization that was conducting the program. And this is what the statement from the embassy said. The United Nations Embassy in Uganda said, in light of this indefinite suspension, it is now unlikely that the program will meet its original objective, which was to prevent COVID-19 related economic backsliding of the most vulnerable Ugandans. Now, therefore, we are obligated contractually to terminate the program permanently. So the program was to benefit 120,000 Ugandans who lost livelihoods because of the coronavirus pandemic. Each beneficiary was to receive 10,000 Ugandan shillings, that is equivalent to $26 every month for 3 months. The embassy regretted that those identified to benefit from the program will not be able to receive the cash transfers. Uganda has so far confirmed over 12,700 coronavirus cases with 112 deaths. And then we go to Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe's First Lady Auxilia Mnangagwa has denied links to gold smuggling and challenged police to produce any incriminating evidence against her. The First Lady also denied illegal dealings with Henrietta Rushwaya, a suspect in a high-profile gold smuggling case who was arrested last Monday while carrying 6 kilograms of gold in her hand luggage at Harare International Airport as she was traveling to Dubai. Police said Ms. Rushwaya did not have the necessary export permits, but she denied the charges in court and is awaiting a ruling on her bail application. Mrs. Mnangagwa also absolved her son from links to gold smuggling. And then we go to Nigeria, and Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has urged young people to halt protests against police brutality and instead engage in talks on police reforms. He said that the government wants to hear concrete and practical ideas from young people. It follows weeks of demonstrations by thousands of young Nigerians across the country to protest against police brutality and bad governance in the country. So part of President Buhari's speech, which was read which was read on behalf of somebody else read that speech for him. President Buhari said every successful protest movement the world over has understood that there comes a time when activity must move from the street to the negotiation table. That time for you has come. Do not be afraid of this reality. You should welcome it, President Buhari said in a speech to mark the Africa Youth Day. He was represented at the event by the Federal Capital Territory Minister, Muhammadu Bello. I guess that is the person that read that speech for him. And then we go to Algeria, and government efforts to encourage Algerians to back constitutional reform have fallen flat, with fewer than 1 in 4 voting in Sunday's referendum. Turnout was 23.7%, a historic low for a major poll in Algeria. It deals a blow to government hopes of satisfying the demands of a long-running protest movement with limited reform. The proposed changes include a 2-term limit for both president and the MPs, but opposition parties as well as the protest movement hierarchy had dismissed the plans as not going anywhere near far enough in transforming Algeria's political culture. And then we go to Tanzania, and police in Tanzania have arrested the chairman of the main opposition party in the wake of a disputed election. Freeman Mbowe was detained along with 2 other Chadema leaders for planning violent protest, according to the police. CCM candidate President John Magufuli was re-elected with 84% of the votes, Friday's official results showed. But the opposition said Wednesday's poll was fraudulent and called for peaceful demonstrations. Chadema's presidential candidate Tundu Lissu told the BBC New Day program that he had also heard of the arrest of party leaders in other parts of the country. Mr. Lissu received 13% of the vote. The National Electoral Commission said he alleged last week that his party agents had been prevented from entering some polling stations where ballot boxes were tampered with. And still staying with Tanzania, and the ruling Chama cha Mapinduzi party candidate, who according to the electoral body won 84% of the vote, while rival Tundu Lissu of the Chadema party there received 13%, affirmed his win and announced that he has no intention of seeking a 3rd term. President Magufuli appealed to the nation, saying, "We cast our votes in a peaceful way. We also witnessed Tanzania receive the results in a peaceful way. This has proven to the world that Tanzanians are mature when it comes to elections and democracy. But we have also proven to the world that Tanzanians love peace. Now that the election is over, it is time to go back to work." And of course, President Magufuli was given his certificate today for his 2nd term as the president of Uganda. And regional experts of Tanzania Elections Watch noted a heavy deployment of military and police whose conduct created a climate of fear, as others allege election-related fraud and intimidation during the election day there in Tanzania. We go to Ivory Coast. Opposition leaders in Ivory Coast are demanding a civil transition following Saturday's presidential poll that their parties boycotted. Pascal Afin Gossan and Henry Konan Bedi say it was illegal for President Alassane Ouattara to stand for a 3rd term as it broke rules on term limits, but the president's supporters dispute this, citing a constitutional change in 2016, which they say means his 1st term effectively did not count. Vote counting is still underway there in Ivory Coast, and at least 16 people have been killed since riots broke out in August after President Ouattara said he would run again following the sudden death of his preferred successor. At least 2 people were killed during Saturday's vote. And then we cross over to Zambia, and Zambia's ruling party failed on Thursday in its controversial bid for constitutional reform in Parliament after less than the required 2/3 majority of lawmakers voted in favor, failed to pass the bill known as Bill Number 10, a bill which would have enabled the current head of state, President Edgar Lungu, to change the electoral layout and take control of central bank monetary policy ahead of elections due August next year. Lawmakers from the Patriotic Front garnered 105 votes, just 6 shy of the needed 111. Opposition lawmakers led by the largest party, the United Party for National Development, UPND, snubbed the parliamentary session. And then we go to Cameroon, and Cameroon observed a day of national mourning on Saturday, with the Central Africa state a flag flying at half-mast and millions of people taking to the streets, mosques and churches to condemn barbarism and killing. People are also asking for investigations to be opened and for suspects, killers, and those promoting the separatist crisis that has killed over 3,000 people in 4 years to face justice. Gunmen stormed the Mother Francisca International Bilingual Academy on October 24th, killing 7 children between the ages of 9 and 12. Cameroon officials blamed Anglophone separatists for the attack, and the separatists said the military killed the children to give the fighters a bad name. Cameroon has been marred by protest and violence since 2016, when English-speaking teachers and lawyers took to the streets to denounce the overbearing influence of French in the bilingual country. And then we come back to Sudan and the United States signed an agreement to restore the Africa's country's sovereign immunity, the Sudanese Ministry of Justice said on Friday. The ministry said in a statement the agreement would settle cases brought against Sudan in the U.S. courts, including for the bombings of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1998, for which Sudan has agreed to pay a total sum of $335 million to victims. The deal is part of the U.S. pledge to remove Sudan from its list of state sponsors of terrorism. The designation goes back to Sudan's toppled Islamist ruler Omar al-Bashir, when Washington believed the country was supporting militant groups. President Donald Trump said last month that the United States would remove Sudan from the list as soon as Khartoum set aside the $335 million it has agreed to pay to American victims of militant attacks and their families to avoid new lawsuits. Sudan needed its sovereign immunity restored, which it lost as a designated sponsor of terrorism. And then we finish with an update of the Nile dispute. Sudan, Egypt and Ethiopia kicked off Sunday the latest round of talks over Addis Ababa's controversial dam on the Blue Nile water, critical to the two downstream nations. Now, the week-long negotiations held via video conference include water ministers from the 3 countries, as well as representatives from the African Union, European Union, and the World Bank. Previous 3-way talks have failed to produce an agreement on the filling and the operation of the vast reservoir behind a 145-meter tall hydropower Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. All right, and there has been some reports that say that, actually Ethiopia filling this dam could help solve the problem of the flooding that is now being witnessed there in Sudan. And that's why Sudan has been a bit quiet on this matter. Egypt tried dragging Sudan into this, but Sudan has not been particularly vocal because, it has been suffering from perennial flooding during the heavy seasons of rain there because of, the Nile River. So the fact that some of this excess water will be going to the Grand Renaissance Dam there in Ethiopia actually could help in solving the perennial flooding there in Sudan. As we speak, the country has been flooding for the past a couple of months now, or weeks rather, because of the heavy rains there. So that is the latest from across, of course, Africa. Very interesting stories there. So as we started there, President Museveni has been cleared to run again for a re-election. President Museveni is 76 years old. Remember, the old constitution in Uganda really had capped the age limit to 75. So when he was nearing that age, he made sure that the constitution was amended. So that part was removed, and I think there's a case in the East African Legislative Court, I believe, that is challenging that part of the constitution that was removed from Ugandan law to allow President Museveni to run again. So he's running, and one of his formidable challengers is the musician turned politician Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobby Wine, as he is famously known. And so he will be challenging President Museveni among other contenders. So President Museveni was clear today to campaign Robert Kyagulanyi aka Bobby Wine, will be cleared tomorrow, and that will set a stage for them to start campaigning. But because of the COVID-19, the campaign there will be a bit different from the usual political campaigns. There will not be any physical crowd rallying sort of campaign there because, of course, of the measures in line with trying to keep Ugandans safe. Then you've seen the figures when it comes to COVID-19 in Uganda have significantly gone high, especially after the primaries that happened that forced people to come out. So I wondered, the reason why they introduced this what they call the scientific elections was because of COVID and the risk that come with the infection. But they went ahead and had the primaries physically anyway. So since then, we've seen the numbers spike there in Uganda, and right now they're nearing 13,000. 13,000 there, and over 100 people have since died there in Uganda. But the rest of the campaign cannot be physical. There will be no rallies in fields and in stadiums and in anywhere. There are no rallies. So they're saying that part of the election, that is the campaigning period, will be the scientific part. Meaning that candidates will have to use social media, candidates will have to use radio and television and newspapers. So I think soon we'll start seeing newspapers in Uganda looking like campaign posters, because you have to campaign. And if you have to campaign in the newspapers, those are the only outlets you have. So that is what we'll be seeing very soon there in Uganda. And, that will work very well for the leading party there through President Museveni, the NRM, the National Resistance Movement, because it has full control of the media in Uganda. And we've seen even the last elections how the government was coming very hard in any media houses that are trying to also offer a coverage to the opposition. So it will not be different. If anything, the government is keenly watching, and we've seen how it has been handling the media in Uganda, even when it comes to them airing the things that are affecting the voices of the opposition. That has been met with a lot of censorship. So this scientific election, or these campaigns that are supposed to be happening through media outlets, through televisions, through the newspapers, through the radio stations, and also social media, which also is very highly censored there in Uganda, I think it will be a negative for the opposition, because they don't get to have the same play. They don't have to have the same share of airtime or space when it comes to the media there, because they are afraid the government in Uganda can just come and decide that media house you're closed, because they'll not even give you a reason. So this has been a disadvantage, and so far the government has been receiving a lot of airtime in the radios, in the television stations, and also in the newspapers. So let's just see how that will play out there in Uganda as we wait for Bobby Wine, Robert Kyagulanyi, to go be cleared tomorrow to start his campaigns. He will not get fair play in the radio stations. He will not get fair play in television. He will not get coverage in the newspaper. And if anything, they'll have to be paying very handsomely. And I think the media there right now will make a lot of money, because if you're coming to campaign on the platform, then now you have to pay for it, right? The money that you would have spent to organize some rallies somewhere, then I think the media will be charging there. So I think the media in Uganda right now will make very good money during this campaign period, especially from the government side, because the money coming in from opposition is also highly censored. You cannot just donate to the opposition. The government is looking to see who is bringing in money, who is donating, what is happening, and so, of course, the ground is not leveled. So we are starting, the campaigns there, and the electioneering there is starting in Uganda. And of course, one candidate has all the advantages and is already ahead. So I don't know how this I don't know how this competition is going to go, but your guess is as good as mine. And so we shall be waiting to see how this will be happening. So we've seen Uganda already stopped the workings of another NGO there that USAID was using to distribute some of this donor funding that they had given to Uganda to help cushion some about 120,000 poor family there in Uganda, to try giving them like a monthly stipend to help them during these very difficult times. And this NGO was called Give Directly. So it was working together with the U.S. Agency for International Development, and and the Ugandan government stopped this NGO from carrying out any activities and being used by USAID to distribute this donor money to the Ugandans who really need this money. I don't know, the government is suspecting perhaps, I don't know. I've not seen the reason as to why. Maybe this is a story. So because the Ugandan government stopped that, so that meant that the U.S. Agency for International Development also stopped giving this money that was meant to benefit the poor Ugandans there. So it also stopped. If I'm going to give you help, then I'm going to decide how I'm going to give that help. So if I feel comfortable working with this institution so that I trust them to carry out and to implement the help I want to give, then that's how it's going to be. But Uganda did not want that for whatever reason, and so they've decided, okay, so we're not going to help you anymore. So only these people are really going to be affected there. All right, very well. So anyway, in Nigeria there, we saw during the the African Youth Day in Nigeria, a statement that was read there by Federal Capital Territory Minister Muhammadu Bello on behalf of President Buhari. And this is what President Buhari said about the recent protesting. And he's saying, hey, enough is enough. Can you now stop with that and come, let's have a talk? And I'll just quote part of President Buhari's speech. He says, every successful protest movement the world over has understood that there comes a time when activity must move from the street to the negotiation table. That time for you has come. Young people of Nigeria, listen up. That time for you to be running around the street is over, and now you're being invited to the negotiation table there by President Buhari. And it continues to say, do not be afraid of this reality that it is time after you've run, you're sweaty, you've burned things, you've made noise all this time. Okay, now you're tired, so now come over. This is the attitude I'm getting from this statement by President Buhari. Okay, now you're done, so come, let's talk. So do not be afraid of this reality. Like, how do you address a person or people who already feel aggrieved, and you're coming here with a sort of an aloofness? Now the reality is here. So okay, you've done what you've done, but the reality is I might need for you to sit down so that you're able to talk. And you should come and you should welcome it. All right. So that is what President Buhari said. And on top of that, the government wants to hear concrete and practical ideas from the young people there in Nigeria. So if you have any idea on how to solve the problems that are plaguing Nigerians, especially the young people there, then President Buhari is asking you to avail yourself. I don't know if he will organize some national dialogue, or I don't know how that's going to go, but he's saying that you should come to the reality that you cannot keep running those streets forever. You cannot keep burning those ties forever. You cannot keep going out there and saying how the police is brutal and you're being killed and your young people are suffering and there's no jobs. Like, you cannot keep doing that now. Come on. And let's reason together and let's talk about this. And he's saying that time for you has come. So, I mean, it's not that it's now. You show up and we need to talk. So I don't know if he will, create structures in which this conversation that I think is important for the people of Nigeria should happen. I don't know if it will be like that national dialogue that President Paul Biya made in Cameroon last year that really gave birth to nothing. So I don't know if it will be a structured talk, or if he really means that he really wants to hear and keenly listen to what the people of Nigeria are saying, and he's willing to listen and to see how the government can respond in solving or in addressing some of those issues that will be raised. So that is yet to be seen. So outside of just saying the time for you has come, And you should not be afraid of the reality that it is time for you to talk with the government. Let's see if President Buhari will create structures quickly that will be able to address and will be able to create a safe space where young people in Nigeria will feel comfortable to come and air their grievances, and perhaps that might help in them knowing that their president is listening to them and what is happening there in Nigeria. Tanzania, the things that is happening there in Tanzania, very sad stories there. Now the opposition, a chairperson of Chadema party, has been arrested. And of course, President Pombe Magufuli, they are won with a landslide, like 84%. What is that? And then on top of that, now he commands a whole 97% of parliament there, Chama cha Mapinduzi in Tanzania. So and we talked about this yesterday, and I've been particularly very candid when it comes to the political situations there in Tanzania. I feel that freedoms have been infringed upon. No media from outside was allowed to go in and cover the elections in Tanzania, as it happens across the globe. We are members of, a big village called the world. And so if we are all members there, and we are all members of the United Nations that has laid forth some of these freedoms that we all borrow and put in our constitution, including the freedom of speech, we've borrowed that, and that is non-negotiable. And so for President Magufuli to have locked out all other voices, all other media outlets, and of course the media in Tanzania also, just like in Uganda, is very the government is very heavy-handed when it comes to the control of the media in Tanzania, and that is the truth. So if President Magufuli had the confidence that he was going to win, and he had the confidence that the people loved him the way now we see here, according to how supposedly people voted, he would not have been scared to have everybody else come in and join in the party, and all media houses to go and report from Tanzania. And if there was nothing to hide, or if the elections were free, fair, and and credible, you wouldn't hide. If people loved me this much and there was confidence, I would be happy to let everybody come in and and just be honest about it and create an environment where there was no intimidation. We saw from hearing from what was happening. Even we had a guest here the same day that after the voting happened the next day, and our guest from Dar es Salaam said even during the voting, there were a lot of army and police officers in the streets, and that caused an environment of fear and intimidation. And so people either voted or rather stayed away from voting, or I don't know what was happening there. So this victory now, of course, President Magufuli has been given his certificate today. He's starting his second term. He came out and this is what he said: "We cast our votes in a peaceful way, really. We also witnessed Tanzania receive the results in a peaceful way. All right, this has proven to the world that Tanzanians are mature. Okay, when it comes to elections and democracy, I don't know. I have contrary opinion, Mr. President, but we have also proven to the world that Tanzanians love peace. That is true. Now that the election is over, it is time to go back to work. But you see, Mr. President, if a section of your population are feeling that, the system there was not was not very fair, and the playing field was not very fair, and you just assume now everything is done, so let's just go back to work. That is the problem, because if these frustrations, people continue fermenting them, you never know. That is how, I'm not saying, but that is how revolutions start. If a few people start talking and it gains momentum, before you know it, things get out of hand. So we should all find a way to address these issues that have come up in this election. And so moving forward, Tanzania's democracy can continue to grow, because what we've seen during this time, during the campaign periods in Tanzania, during the election time in Tanzania, the tenets of democracy, nothing, the safeguards of democracy, they've all been violated. So President Magufuli comes out and say Tanzania has matured when it comes to democracy. I do not understand what democracy is, because if it is democracy the way we know it, then, that is not exactly what happened. If all the safeguards, a free press, an opposition that is able to carry out its campaigns and there's a free and fair level playing field. If even the opposition itself said some of its what do you call them? They were not able to go, and their agents were prevented from entering some polling stations that were ballot. They're saying the ballot boxes were tampered with. Just be open about it. Those are the tenets. Those are the basic principles of democracy. So if you're telling us, President Magufuli, that Tanzania has shown the world that it has matured when it comes to elections and democracy, I don't know, but a lot of people will want to differ with that, because that is not exactly what we saw happening there in Tanzania. Maybe somebody else people from Tanzania even will tell us maybe different. I don't know. And Isaac Horn, you're saying Egyptian citizen killing South Sudanese citizen, and South Sudanese citizen, Kir must go. As a court, I'm so sorry to hear about that. I wish you could give us more details of what is happening there in Egypt. The last I read about those stories and how the people of South Sudan and Sudan were suffering in Egypt was that time there was an issue where they were being kidnapped and then their organs were harvested, like a bad Halloween movie or something. But that is the last time I heard that, and a lot of scary stories that are happening there. I've been trying to look through and find out what the government of South Sudan is doing, and I've not been able to get any information because I'm interested. I've been following the implementation of the revitalized peace agreement 2018, and there are a few points that are quite important in that agreement that the government of South Sudan has not been able to implement. So I've been trying to follow and see, but I know COVID-19 sort of has caused a mixture, but I've been really trying to see what's really happening there in South Sudan and what is the update, and I've not been very successful about it. So if you know any information and any more information about this very disturbing news that you just shared, Mr. Isaac, so please kindly share more details and I will appreciate. Thank you very much for watching. Also, in Ivory Coast, they had the election on Saturday. I remember the opposition boycotted these elections, and now they're calling for a civil transition. I don't even know what that means, but at least 16 people have been killed since riots broke out in August after President Ouattara said he would run again following the sudden death of his preferred successor, and at least 2 people were killed during Saturday's vote. Like, why does it have to be here? Is there a time there we'll be having elections in this continent and don't have to worry about losing some innocent lives? Like, it is not that serious. It's just elections. But the manner in which, even in Ivory Coast, it was done, where President Ouattara insisted on going on another third term, against the constitution, now causing a lot of problems there. It's just out of order. And when people try to make their own laws outside of the existing constitutional order, that is the recipe there. Also, these prayers that happened, the national mourning, was it on Saturday there in Cameroon, to mourn the 7 children who were killed in a school. It's just sad, and we know that there has been some crisis between the government of President Paul Biya and the Anglophones, where right now over 3,000 lives have been lost for the last 4 years, and these children were killed when gunmen stormed in the Mother Francisca International Bilingual Academy on October 24th. A very sad event. And when you hear the ages of these children, between 9 and 12, like, what are you doing in the name of humanity? How are you just comfortable raising a gun and aiming at a child between 9 and 12 years old? What has the world become? So Cameroon, as we know, has been marred by protest and violence since 2016, when our English-speaking teachers and lawyers took to the streets to denounce the overbearing influence of French in the bilingual country. And the Cameroon government is saying it is the separatists in Anglophone, and Anglophones, the separatists in Anglophone, are saying this is Cameroon army who are doing this so that it might tarnish their name, and so their fighters, it might give their fighters a bad name. I think this is very sad, and I think the United Nations need to intervene. I think the African Union needs to handle this matter with the urgency that it requires. We cannot continue having things like this happen. A child between 9 and 12, tell me, what threat were they to anybody? And you kill them. Those are the ages of the 7 children who were murdered in this very gruesome way in class studying. Somebody just walks in and aims a gun at them. This should be condemned. And I'm just shocked that Africa has just moved on as if it's just bread and butter and everything is just jelly and wonderful. And yet we have a section in this continent that now children cannot even sit in the classroom and study because of the threat of a gunman walking in and killing them. This is something that should make us all outraged and all very bothered as a continent, because those children are the future of this continent, and education is important. And then we know the children from the section of the Anglophone region have not been able to go to school. Either their schools have been burned or their families have moved because of the insecurity and whatever has been happening in the restive regions of the Anglophone region. And so it's just too much. It's too much already. And last year, of course, President Paul Biya had that national dialogue that was really catastrophic and did not really get the people that he was supposed to get to sit on the table so that he could have a truly national dialogue with an aim of solving this conflict and finding a lasting solution to it. So the murders continue, the sufferings continue, and we're just all quiet in this continent. It's not business as usual, and we should not just treat it as something that is it's just another thing happening in the continent. This is just wrong and sad. Can you imagine? Between ages 9 and 12, seated in a class learning, and then somebody just comes and opens a fire on them. It's very disturbing. Isaac, you're saying yes. 3 days ago, they killed 15-year-old, stabbed 7 times because he's trying to defend his family. What do you mean? See, this very scary things happening. This is in South Sudan, Isaac, I believe. And you're saying, I want the government to have not done anything about it. Or you're saying in Egypt, an Egyptian government that has not done anything about it. So you're saying this 15-year-old was stabbed 7 times in Egypt. The government of Egypt has not addressed the issue, and the government of South Sudan has also not addressed the issue. I don't know if President Salva Kiir has been able to put back diplomats in embassies across South Sudan, because was it last year when the government was very, very broke, and it has closed down about, I can't remember the number, is it 35 of its embassies, and recalled its ambassadors back home because it could not pay them. So I don't know if South Sudan has an embassy in Egypt. I don't know if they're back in operation. I don't know if that is one of the embassies that was closed down, but last year that happened. So I'll go look for this information, and then we shall come talk about it when we get time. So that is also very sad news happening there. South Sudanese and Sudanese citizens, according to our viewer here, Isaac, being targeted there in Egypt, and that is not the first time this information we're hearing such news happening there. Very sad indeed, but we still love our motherland. We still love our continent. Africa is all we have. All right, so let's just do our best to keep talking. Maybe change will come someday. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Diaspora Dispatches. I am Miriam Ogutu. A very good afternoon to you.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.